So, yeah, you can shut the door. I guess I want to start off by talking a little bit about why I even delved down into the whole life purpose thing. When I was in my mid-40s a few years ago, I sort of asked the question myself, right? Why am I here as a human being? What is my purpose in life? And I realized that I hadn't sort of really spent time to figure that out myself. I hadn't really articulated that, right? And I felt that if not now, when the heck am I going to do it, right? As opposed to just living your life, day to day. So I tried to do some research to see if there was stuff out there where I could find out, is there anything out there that will help me find out what my life purpose was. And I didn't find a lot of things. So what I did was I went through and created a 7-step program that starts with defining your own life purpose. Like that was the first thing I did, defining that, right? And what I found out there on the internet is what you're going to see over here, right? So the first paragraph out there says take out a blank sheet of paper, write down what is your life purpose, and then write an answer, a short phrase, repeat it until you write the answer that makes you cry. This is your purpose. I'm not that way. I can't, that just did not resonate with me, right? What is that thing for you? Don't worry, you'll have an answer. It'll show up in the perfect time. I promise you that. Oh, I tell you what, never showed up for me. I just can't, personally, I could not resonate with that, right? I needed something more, let's just say practical. So that's what this program that I created for myself was all about. And then I started to share it. And I shared it like 3 or 4 times. So before we even go down the program, I'd just like to go around the circle here to see why are you here relative to, is there a yearning, right? Do you have a yearning that says I need to find out my life? Or just tell me a little bit about why you guys just came here. You can start anywhere, there, whoever.
We can start over there.
I'm here for she.
Yeah, I dragged him.
That's the husband's answer, right? No.
It's his purpose to listen to me.
The only thing I've figured out as far as a purpose, because I'm basically a jerk of all trades. I've tried just about everything you can think of, from running a business to running a racing team, being a teacher, and I was successful at all of it, but I wasn't happy. And one thing I found is when you're not happy, it gives you a big mouth, and a big mouth gets you fired. So I'm still trying to figure out what works. And well, I'm not there yet. If I could afford to sit on a beach somewhere, on a small island, I think that would work for me. But I don't think it would work for anyone else that had to put up with me.
I can see her making faces.
So
I could take the island thing for a while, but then you'd get antsy.
the peace I've found is with my family. But I'm looking for that thing that's inside that feeds something that is a piece of you that's missing till you find it. And boy, that sucker's hiding really well.
Yep.
Well, I wanted to come and listen to you because I loved your comments in the other session. And I feel like I have been on the edge of my own purpose, sharing my life's journey from feeling like a victim to feeling like, oh, I understand now that that's something I chose, and now I choose differently. And sharing that through writing and art and speaking it lights me up. It's also extremely challenging, and it hasn't been financially viable in the way I want it to be. So I keep thinking, I'm missing like a key thing to my purpose because I'm not letting the financial part be connected to what I love.
Can I just say ditto to
Yeah,
what she just
I
said. Yeah, we have a lot of similarities in it. Like I'm working for myself, which I love much better than working for other people, and writing and teaching, and it's around spirituality, and I really love it. And so I'm working to finesse it and kind of get the abundance. to go with
in an
that.
ethical way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in a art center, like I can feel good about this, that we're contributing and we're not sucking anybody dry.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I quit my job of 6 years mid-August. I went to the Wales retreat with Lainey and Miro and Project World School. And so I kind of left my old life behind, and I wanted to go there, and then after that was over, like, I'm not going to have a job, so it's like I get a fresh start, because what do I do? And I'm kind of there now, and Lainey invited me to this conference. I really wanted to go to, just surround myself with this kind of community. But yeah, I'm wondering what it is I should do in life now, because I don't have a job, and pretty much just hanging out.
Pass. Okay, pass. Mine's a little more morbid. Sabrina Carpenter. There you go. There we go.
Grace and Isis got their Sabrina Carpenter.
So
Grace likes that version.
my mother passed now under 2 years ago, and so as Julie knows, like last year I was blubbering when I was here, and I was just like a mess. I'm more stable now, and I've been delving into what is my life purpose. And I started reading books by Michael Newton, I think, which is about past life and regression and life between lives. And so that started a whole interest of okay, so, and I just started going to a hypnotist who specializes in that, to kind of bring me into a past life. And she brought me actually into a past life and then a life between lives. And I'm going back one more time, and it's basically to kind of figure out why the hell am I here. So that's why I'm here.
That's cool.
Because I started just delving really deep into all of that. But my reasoning is it was like death. It was
Sure.
all, so I just, that brought me where I am
Yep.
now. So.
Kind of ditto with what they said. I work a lot of part-time jobs, and we do them I work so much because we like to go to this place and give our money to the mouse. And it really is my happy place. I love it, and the work is worth it to go there. But I love what I do. Julie knows what I do. I work with young adults with disabilities and special healthcare needs, and I love what I do, but I hate where I work with a passion I can't even put into words. I'm treated horribly there, and everyone around me is like, you've got to quit, but I can't. First of all, I don't want to leave the youth in the lurch, because I feel like they won't have an advocate that sees the world the way I do. But whatever, that aside, the work I do that fills my soul, I don't get paid for. Like, I teach baby wearing for free and different things like that, and I love it and it fills my soul, but it's just time away from my kids, which sucks my soul dry. But the work I'm getting paid for is sucking my soul dry even more, but so I'm like, this just appealed to me. Really long-winded answer to I thought it sounded appealing, which is really the bottom line, and ditto. Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I can read.
What exactly, why are you here? Right? Is there a yearning to seek your life purpose? What is drawing you to this topic?
Yeah, I still haven't found mine. I'm 41 and I thought it was one thing, it wasn't. I followed other people's dreams for the first 20 years of my life. And, okay, I lied. For the first 37 years of my life, I followed my parents' immigrant dreams, which were not bad. I have a degree, and I can always use that degree, but it is a malignant world.
They were their dreams, not yours.
And the work environment is not, it's not what I thought I'd be doing. So, and yes, it was their dream. It wasn't really mine. So, I think I am a creative spirit, and I love to draw, paint, yarn, construction paper. It's my thing. And the color wheel, the rainbow. Unfortunately, we live in a world where I have to exchange money to pay bills, and so how I fit that dream, that artists work with a monetary source and homeschooling. So that's where I am this minute.
You're just in time to answer the question.
No, I was waiting, I was hoping to skip that.
Didn't quite as well. Why are you drawn here to this session?
Oh, I enjoyed it last year and I needed a refresher. I think.
So, sorry, Grace.
Sabrina Carpenter.
Sabrina Carpenter. Okay. Grace and Isis are here for Sabrina Carpenter.
I'm woefully uninformed. I don't know who that is.
She's a Disney Channel.
She's Sabrina Carpenter.
She's a
She
singer,
is from the show
actor.
Girl Meets World, and she sings, and she's just
They were just
Adventures in
asking
Babysitting.
love for her.
and Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah.
So she's just obsessed, and that's what the world where you're obsessed, and that's what your world revolves around, which is fine.
So, look, I think it's important to verbalize it. Why, what is that yearning? Because it sort of sets the stage. Because what we'll be doing, as I said, it's a practical program. So you'll be writing down your purpose yourself. Right now, as I'll show you the technique that I did. And then I made some refinements since the last time you saw it. So because I'm constantly working on this, because I feel personally at least that life purpose changes, evolves over time. So mine has been evolving over time. So yeah, we'll be going over that, sharing all those steps, but you will be working directly in writing it down, because in the next 30 minutes, hopefully, you will have articulated your life purpose. That's the first step. Then we'll be looking at, because the program is not just defining it, but also trying to live it. So how do you live it? So in order to do that, the one thing that we'll be doing, right, is delving deeper into what exactly is your life purpose. So one thing I want to make sure you guys understand, because a lot of times most of us who are driven to do what we do, the fact that you guys are here means that you're not one of those. Otherwise you wouldn't even be here in this conference. Let's just face it, right? This conference is a collection of a very small percentage of people. Most of them are sending their kids to school, going to work, coming back, not even starting the journey of self-examination. So be gentle. Remember that you are already in the 1% that really matters. Yeah? So just to set the stage for that, right? And then the other thing I like to emphasize here is that, again, when I was in my mid-40s, I realized that I was having lots of intellectual conversations about life purpose and listening to people like Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer talk, but they were all weekend intellectual interludes, right? It was my classic spectator sport. Love to talk about it, but it had no practical implications on my life. And I was done with it. I was so fed up of just doing this and not living it, right? Not experiencing what these guys would say is the bliss, because you're living your life purpose and, the present moment is great. And I'm like, look, my present moment sucks. Because I just wasn't there mentally, and no amount of book reading was going to get me there. So that yearning was very deep rooted, right? So I had to ask myself that question, right? What level of commitment am I bringing to the table relative to this topic of seeking your life purpose and living it? So it's classically to me expressed in that cartoon there, right? I don't know if you guys can read that. If you cannot, I'll verbalize it. But if you can, just take a look at it. You can't read it? Okay. So it's a chicken and the pig story, and the chicken says, "Hey pig, I was thinking we should start a restaurant." The pig says, "I don't know, what would you call it?" And the chicken says, how about ham and eggs? And the pig says, no thanks, I'd be committed, but you'd only be involved. Ham and eggs, right? So my question, the one that I asked, this really hit me hard. So the question I had for myself was, right, am I committed or am I chicken? Yeah? See the play on words? So that was sort of the yearning. Then I decided I'm done. I have got to be committed because I don't want to live another year. I don't want to go to my next birthday without knowing that I have at least started the journey of living my life purpose. Period. That's what started this journey. That's what I'm going to share with you guys. So I guess the reason I shared this with you is that's the question you have to ask yourself. Yeah? Are you committed to this or not? And you can figure out your own answer. There's no judgment here, but ultimately that's what it boils down to. So it's a 7-step program. The first thing that I did was I wrote down my life purpose, which, like I said, get your paper and pencil ready. You'll be doing it yourself in the next 15 minutes. Next, I aligned food, body, thoughts, emotions, actions relative to the purpose. And then I used my experience as a guide stick to see, was I down the path? Was I headed in the right direction or not? The whole concept was similar to Julie, what you said. That's why it resonated with me when you said, I think in the first session yesterday, that when you're experiencing something out there, you have to change yourself, and then the experience changes. People disappear when those emotional triggers aren't occurring inside you. So hence you use your experience as a mirror. So that's the 7-step program in a nutshell. And as we go through this, right, let's be interactive because we'll be covering all kinds of topics from spirituality, religion, all kinds of things. Because you can't separate all these parts of your life relative to your life purpose. You cannot. So anyway, any questions, any comments?
Do you think you can have different life purposes at different times in your life?
Absolutely. And right off the bat, when we go over how I wrote down, how I created that my own purpose, and I share that with you guys, you'll figure out why, right? So yes. Any other questions before we just jump right into it?
Anybody have extra pen?
I'm sorry. I guess I should have got some sheets of paper.
Here, Julie, you can use this one if you have another one.
We need to, yeah, we're totally in that.
She might be bringing some from the table, from the.
Ah, that was good, thank you. Okay, sorry.
And the three of you came a little bit later, right? We just went around the table asking, so why are you guys here? Was there something driving you here or whatever? If you feel like sharing, share. There's no compulsion. No? Yes?
I have no idea what my purpose is. So
Fair
that's
enough.
why I came.
Fair enough. Yep. Same stage that I was. I had no clue. No clue.
I like what you had to say in previous sessions, so I was continuing I have lots of ideas. I think about my purpose, but just seeking further clarity.
Yep. Fair enough. Same challenge with myself. I felt like I was a butterfly, flitting from one to the other, constantly. It's like, like an ADD, just going all over the place, no focus, etc. So, I'm going to wait for her so that we don't go there. Okay. So while we're waiting for her, I did mention that we will be covering all kinds of topics, and let's keep this very interactive. Right? It's 2 hours, so it's a long time. So as we go through each step, I want to share with you my thoughts, but it's a small group, so you can keep it highly interactive and sort of get your feedback, etc. along the way.
for me? And he said no. So I was like, whoa, what? Does that mean he's coming to the session? Like, what? So I turned back around, he's like, no, I need the bag. Oh, forgot I had the bag.
Stay here for seconds.
So this is my son, so he's here to heckle. Well, he's constantly critiquing everything I do, so.
Sometimes. Is this the same talk as last time?
Change a little bit, but.
Thank you.
Well, you're supposed to.
I know.
Okay. Okay, I'll catch her up when she comes. I guess she left too, right? So let me throw this out there so you guys can see. The first thing that I did, right, when I tried to figure this out myself, I first picked 3 people in my life that I admired the most, qualities, attributes that I admired the most. Okay, so when I picked these 3 people, it doesn't matter whether they are posthumous or they're dead, alive, fictional, mythological, it doesn't matter. Try to think of 3 people who you admire the most. And I'll go through, in the first slide here, I'll go through the steps that I did, and then you guys can maybe do the same thing, right? So I had, for example, an uncle who,
Some fancy shoes.
thanks. So I had an uncle that I really admired. He has a PhD, runs a very successful company. But what I admired the most about him was that besides, he was incredibly intelligent, right? He was so humble. It just blew me away how humble this guy was. So I had, and then I had a teacher who to me was a enlightened being, right? To the point I made the other day, who was just incredible. The energy he radiated, etc., is fabulous. So I took 3 people that I admired the most, and I wrote down their attributes. And now this is important, not their accomplishments, not that they ran a company or made $1 million, but the attributes that they portrayed that attracted me to admiring them or following them, etc. So some of the common attributes that I came up with were integrity, honesty, dignity, humanity, courage, peace, awareness, etc., etc. So what I did was I wrote down the list of their attributes. Once I had that list of attributes down, I then wrote down sentences in first person, right, that answered some of these questions as me living those attributes. So for example, who do you want to be, which is your foundation? And I'll give you an example, so maybe it'll get, you'll understand where I was coming from. How do you want your thoughts and actions to be? So which is an inside-out perspective. Then how do you want to be known as, which is an outside-in perspective? Or how do you want to interact with the world? So the sentences that I came up with then became my purpose, and these are the 3 sentences. So my purpose is to be aware in every moment of my life. Because to me, that teacher of mine that taught me yoga and some other things, he would describe himself as just a slice of life. Not male, not female, not this. No, who wrote that? Somebody had a t-shirt yesterday that said, I am. He was just that, I am. He had no ego. Interacting with him is just amazing. And because he said that because he is fully aware in the moment. He lives in the present. So, that is one of my goals, aspirations, because I just love that about him. To be aware in every moment of my life. To have my thoughts and actions grounded in, you notice how I'm taking those integrity, honesty, humility, appreciation, love, compassion. To help people and organizations recognize their purpose so they can live every moment in conscious awareness. So these 3 sentences then became my purpose. Now, notice that the 3 people that I picked, which is where I started this journey, they can evolve over time. As a matter of fact, even last year to today, I've switched out a person because I met somebody incredible, right? Because you're evolving always, so your purpose can also evolve. It's okay. But this then was how I wrote down my purpose. Does that make sense, or are you guys like totally? So what I want you guys to do then is to actually do that, right? If you can take a moment to write down the names of 3 people. 1 person, 2 people, doesn't matter. Who do you admire, worship, whatever the most?
So look for certain attributes about somebody that you admire, but there's certain other attributes that you don't admire.
For now, let's just focus on the ones that you totally admire.
Okay, so
We'll come to that because it's an interesting point, right? If you look at,
it's perfect.
totally get it, totally get it. Every person has got positive qualities and negative qualities. But if there's something that pops into mind, such as my grandmother, whoever, it doesn't matter who it is, that you feel that you were attracted to, you emulate, you admire, let's look at the positive attributes that they have, and then let's go through this exercise. Jet, do you have any questions or?
So 2 or 3 people.
1 person, it doesn't matter. Let's start the journey. It doesn't matter if you end up with 1 sentence. The whole purpose is to start that process of trying to figure that out and putting it down on a piece of paper. And then once you've got it, I'll give you guys the time to do it, and then let's move forward. If you guys have any questions, any clarity, I can come and talk to anyone individually if you want.
We're just writing down the 3 people and their attributes right now.
In the sentences like that.
Sentences, okay.
So craft a sentence with those attributes, with you living those attributes.
Okay.
Are we doing purpose first or the?
Yeah, what you're doing is you're trying to craft sentences like that.
To write down the adjectives first.
Yeah. So first write down what is it that you admire,
Yeah.
and then write down you living that.
Okay.
Are you living it? any questions, any comments so far?
Well, I'm very good at bullshitting myself. I can write essays on all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
I'm really good at I'm writing stuff and thinking, no.
You're calling BS on yourself already?
Yeah, I'm good at that, I'm good at looking at people I'm cooking to see how they do stuff and fit in. So, I don't know how true to myself when I'm writing is.
Good. Well, we got another hour and a half to delve into it, so we will.
It's really difficult.
And look, it's step one, right? Start with one sentence. Start somewhere. We have to start the journey.
Well, you have so many different things that are just all the attributes you would like to have and you think you don't have. How do you create then your purpose? Seems like unrealistic sometimes too.
Yeah, to me, so again, I'll just share with you my journey, right? When I first started, these attributes, integrity, honesty, dignity, humanity, peace, awareness, love, compassion, etc., were the things that resonated the most with me for the 3 people that I picked. So when I first started this journey, these sentences have evolved over time because I revisit it. I go back in there, look at it. So for me to say to be aware in every moment of my life is my purpose might sound, I know the first time I thought, I'm like, what the heck does that even mean? Right? What the hell do you mean to be aware in every moment? However, as I sort of digested it and started living it, and again, we'll go through the entire step-by-step process, right, of the other 5 steps. And along the way, it'll help you get that clarity so that even when we are done, maybe tomorrow, maybe at the end of the, you'll be able to revisit that and sort of rewrite it yourself. So, give it time. Clearly you're here because this is, there's some voice inside you saying, I want to find this out for myself. What is my life purpose? So let's go through this process step by step, and hopefully, you'll know where I was coming from, how I did what I did, and that might be able to help you in your journey. It doesn't have to be the same way, but my intention is just to help you guys in your yearning. And by the way, I'm a really good BSer with myself. Very good. Just ask my wife, right? She'll tell you.
Is she here?
Yeah, she's somewhere. Not here.
Not here.
So once I had written down my purpose, by the way, does anybody want to share? Feel like sharing? Because for some people it helps, others it doesn't. Introvert, extrovert, there's no pushing here. But if you feel like it might help to share, to get clarity for yourself, open up. If not, we'll move on.
So does everyone have a purpose written down already?
And they ask, you have the 4 questions, how do you want to be? Do you want your thoughts and actions to be? So is it to first answer those 4 questions and then the purpose?
It's just to help you formulate the sentences.
I have a purpose, but I feel like it's very lame and totally self-involved.
So, again, let's not put any value judgments in what you create, yeah? Let's first create it, no judgment. Just, like I said, see, I don't know if you saw this before, right? I showed this one slide before you guys even came here. Or maybe some of you didn't see this, right? You are here, you are literally 1% of the population out there. Unschooling, thinking beyond what others are. So many people are just doing the rat race, doing what they're doing, and not even thinking about these kind of questions. So, be gentle on yourself, right? Don't be harsh. Don't have any value
Well, when you
judgments.
think about purpose, I think for me, it's like it has to be grand, and I think that's
All right,
problem.
totally. So, okay, I was gonna wait until later, but I'm gonna let's talk about that, right? So,
One question.
sorry, what?
How do you want to interact in your purpose? How do you want to interact? In the world. Sorry.
Okay, so our society today, right, is a very intellectual society. We value intellect more than anything else. Most of the jobs that are paid today are paid on intellect, the higher the intellect, etc., etc. If I were to say something here that was outside the realm of what you consider to be logical or normal, you would dismiss it. That is a normal tendency, which is one of the reasons why if you have gone out there and experienced how other people might look at you when you say things like, I talk to my higher self and I figure things, etc., etc., they'll just dismiss you if it doesn't fit within the logical boundaries. Right? You just gave that talk. I thought it was beautiful. It was awesome. But my point is that we live in an intellectual society and all of us have that mindset that is based on the intellect. What does the intellect do? The intellect slices, dices, separates. That's what the intellect does. Even for us to figure out life, we dissect the body because we are based on the intellect. Yet, you will never understand the fundamentals of life by doing that. Our breath that emanates and breathes us and brings this life force into us, you're not going to comprehend that through the intellect. You're not. Yes, we'll come up with all kinds of causes and all kinds of effects and logical deductions, etc. But the life, or how exactly does me eating an apple make it a part of me in a few hours? You might describe it with digestion and all kinds of scientific mumbo jumbo, but that does not get to the root of how life emanates and springs forth from this planet, right? So, what I'm trying to tell you is this. You have to stop the intellectualization of this. You have to stop it. And we'll go through this journey, right? I'm going to walk through the different steps so that, because look, it's a big struggle for me. I'm an electrical engineer. I live on intellect. If somebody would have, myself, would have told this to myself 5 years ago, I would have said, cut the bullshit, I'm out of here. There's no way I would have listened to it. No way. So let me walk through the different steps. There's a reason why I picked all of them. We'll go through it, I'll ask the questions, and then at the end of it, we'll come back to this one more time. Okay? Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at food. And again, throughout this sequence, I'll describe to you how I looked at it relative to my purpose. And then you guys can look at it yourself, right? So people say, I'm just going to put some sentences up here that you guys can read. I'm not going to read every sentence here. You guys can read, right? Obviously, food is what keeps us alive, right? We need food to survive, etc. And you'd ask the question, what the hell does that have to do with my purpose? So one of the comments that I had made in my purpose was that you notice I use the word compassion. So for me, my journey of compassion includes compassion for animals. So the conscious decision, I'm done eating animals. And I'm done. So again, this is where the commitment comes in, right? The commitment comes in, are you going to live your purpose? So if that is important enough for me to write down and start living it, then you have to take the step to actually do the experiential journey relative to the food around it.
Next step, compassion with vegetables and fruits.
Well, so sentient beings to me are different, right? A sentient being isn't the same as a vegetable.
Okay.
Yeah?
No, because my sister last day was telling me that the trees interact between each other and
Yes.
things like this. That's incredible.
There is no doubt about that. All life is connected.
But we don't
Yet-
have a tree.
Yeah, we gotta eat something.
Yeah.
Yet, I want to be alive, no? Yeah? I mean, I could just give up this body and go away and die. But clearly, you have to find out where is that comfort zone relative to you. Again,
It's difficult to do.
the intellectualization and this back and forth thing, you can go on forever around it. But this is what I found was relative to my choices and my decisions to move forward. So you have to make those for yourself, whatever they might be, right? So figure out, for example, what is it that you feel is appropriate relative to your purpose and eat accordingly. So generally, diet high in raw foods and vegetables tends to be nourishing. Now, one of the things that I found very helpful was this sentence right here. I found a guy, Terry Hambrick in Tampa, where I live part of the year. He is incredible in kinesiology. I don't know if you guys know what kinesiology is. Anybody here doesn't know? Okay. So kinesiology is the science/art of muscle testing. So the concept being that something that is not true to you weakens your muscles. So for example, if I hold my hand here and somebody's testing you like this, right? It's muscle testing. That's kinesiology. So I can't tell you the number of times I have had food allergies that he has found out, and we've done emotional regression to resolve it, and the allergies disappear. So the point is, this external help and helping you with that is important. So if you can get it, try to get it. The other thing I'll make a comment about is, and I'll talk about yoga, it's one of my passions, not the yoga that they teach in America, the bendy stuff, right? It's a little more than that. But in yoga, there's a concept about prana, which is a life force, the breath that emanates our body. So there are certain foods, or pranic foods, that are known as positive pranic foods, which are sort of good for the prana, and there are negative pranic foods, which are bad for the prana. So garlic, onion, plant are negative, tomato is neutral, meat, of course, is negative. Now, in India, I don't know if you guys have been there, but I grew up there and I've spent more of my life here than there, but I remember seeing a bunch of sadhus or ascetics or whatever, hardly any clothes on their bodies. They just live their life in bliss, right? They're like totally blissed and they hardly are interested in anything. But they are given food, and the way they live their lives is, if they're given food, they eat it. If they don't, they don't. It's a very different lifestyle. Anyway, the point is, years ago, there used to be people who would give them food, even now I suppose, that might not be good for them, spoiled, etc. So I don't know if you guys know about this, but there's a necklace there are seeds called rudrakshas. They're known as the tears of Shiva. You can take this necklace, and if you hold it on top of food that is positive pranic, it rotates clockwise. If you hold it on top of food that is negative pranic, it rotates counterclockwise. And neutral will cause it to go back and forth. So if I hold it on top of a glass of alcohol, it'll go negative. Right? It's very interesting. Again, you're talking to a double E who would have laughed at myself where I said this crap before, but I've actually experienced this. Right? It's very interesting. So figure out what is nourishing for you. Know how food affects you. And make sure that you align your food intake with your purpose. For example, somebody's purpose might be that they want to be a super athlete or something like that. Well, then you need to eat the kind of foods that are going to support you in that purpose. The whole point is nothing about you should be ignored. And the first thing that sustains you is food. Right? We need it every single day. So make sure you pay attention to what you intake, because that will affect your purpose.
Do you think that children are able to be aware of that without us giving them our point of view about food and controlling food?
You mean are children aware of what? What affects them?
Of what food is good for them?
Look, go ahead.
I think so. My kids, several of them have like food allergies, or I guess food sensitivities, because they're not technically allergic to them, and they know they're not. Well, some of my kids are super little, but they're not the ones with the food sensitivities. But so they're a little bit older, but they definitely know. And like my older daughter, she knows that if she eats a certain thing, how she'll feel afterwards. And sometimes she's like, I don't want to, because it's not like a stomach reaction, it's more emotional for her. And sometimes she'll make the choice anyway and be like, I don't care, I want to eat that. I don't care, I'm going to cry in 2 hours. I know I'm going to cry in 2 hours, and whatever, I want that. Yeah, so I think that they do. Like, I think even probably the little ones are aware on some level of, I ate that and now I'm tired. Or,
I think it depends on the kid, because my child, I would say not so much. So I think it depends, like mine would
I think at the very least, you need to listen to them, because I think as parents, we tend in some areas to listen to our kids, in some areas we don't. We are unconscious to our own behaviors. And listening to them is so important. Look, I don't do it, right? Not all the time, not in every area. Sometimes it's a lack of patience, lots of reasons around it. But simply listening to them, listening to how they behave, how they interact, they will tell you. Some of them are aware, might not be able to express it. Some of them are aware and able to express it. But we've just allowed our kids, now at least, and we wish we had done it a lot earlier, to simply regulate themselves. We just let them choose. It's back to letting them listen to their inner guidance rather than coming to me. And there are times when Neil will get, and Grace will get pissed off at us because Neil will be like, "What's your opinion, Dad?" I'm like, "Well, you tell me yours and I'll tell you mine." "Well, why the heck don't you tell yours? Tell me your opinions." "You tell me yours because I don't want him to base it based upon mine." So the non-interference sometimes goes to the other extreme, but I want them to go to their inner guidance. Because when they're teenagers, if they rely on you, i.e. outside of themselves, that's what they're going to do when they're older. But it's not going to be you they're going to rely on. They'll still go outside. So before we go there, before we go to the food, I want to ask a question, right? I'm going to make a statement, and then I want to see your reaction. So clearly, food, as I said before, right, it becomes a part of you. You eat something, you go through the process of digestion, and then a part of that food becomes you. That's how your body grows, etc., etc. So, however, you are not your food. Agreed? The food becomes you, but you are not your food. Yes? Who you are, who you do. If I ask you, Parag, are you the apple? Are you the apple you just ate? Obviously, I'll say no. Whoever I am, that the food helps me sustain myself, etc., but it isn't me. It isn't who I am. Fair? Anybody disagree? Okay. So now let's go to the body. Well, so obviously we need to nourish and care for our body, right? It's the only one we have. Create a maintenance schedule for it and follow it. So here are the ions of wellness. Take a look at it for a second, right? Respiration, flexion, they all end in ION. Digestion, mastication, ambulation, relaxation, etc. I call these the ions of wellness. Actually, there's a good friend of mine, the same guy, Terry Hambrick, who came up with this ion. I loved it, right? The ions of wellness. So we need to make sure that each one of these, quote, ions is exercised every day relative to the body. So one of the ways that I do it, and I know some of you guys are writing this down, so I'll give you a minute to write it down. But one of the ways that I do it is through exercise regularly, and I practice a form of yoga. That is a very traditional kind of yoga. It is not there are some asanas in it, but you have to be initiated into the process. Very traditionally in India, that's the way yoga was practiced, right? You needed to be initiated into yogic techniques by someone who was well versed in them. And then you practice the asanas and the breathing techniques. So for example, Surya Namaskar, sun salutation. Probably everybody has heard about it somewhere along the way. But I grew up in India, came here, I've lived here longer, but I knew about Surya Namaskar. And yet, when I was taught by this person who knew this, the first time I did it, and there are so many ways to do Surya Namaskar. I'm practicing currently a technique that takes me 20 minutes to finish one cycle. Just one cycle of Surya Namaskar takes me 20 minutes to do. But the first time I started this Surya Namaskar, it's hard to describe, but my breath changed. I could feel the way my breath entered my body and left my body completely changed. So again, you're talking to a guy who is like totally into outside biologic, etc. I couldn't believe that there were things that you could do of breathing and holding your body in certain ways that will actually change the quality of your breath. And as I practice more of these techniques, not to get too gross or whatever, but I don't get any boogers anymore. I don't. It's the quality of my breath has now improved to the point that it's just very different. And so I found the technique of yoga that I follow is called Isha Yoga, ISHA yoga. And Isha Yoga, you can Google it, there's a whole movement around it. So I followed Isha Yoga. And just when I started it, I was already on blood pressure medication. I had high cholesterol. My triglycerides were like close to 300, they're through the roof. My doctor ordered a VAT density profile, which figures out how dense your molecules are. And he said that if it's very dense, then it's kind of like akin to a bowling ball going through your veins. It'll puncture it, you're a candidate for stroke, etc. And he said, you got to get on cholesterol medication. And I was like, look, I just started this yoga program. Give me 6 months. Went back 6 months later, my triglycerides had gone down to like 79 or something from close to 300. My cholesterol, LDL, all the ratios were normal. My VAT density profile went from most dense to least dense, which according to him is a genetic marker and it doesn't change. So he's like, I have no idea what you did. Just keep doing it. Again, the reason I'm telling you this is that there are techniques that you can get, that you can use that will transform your body from the inside out. What I was told was it aligns the energies, 7 chakras in your body, aligns them in such a way that the body that hangs like a frame hangs on a jacket coat, right? On a coat hanger. It's like you align, you make sure your hanger is proper and the coat hangs properly. So you align your energies using these techniques and your body just falls into place around it. Of course, the first time I heard it, I was like, that's just bullshit. I don't buy it. What the hell is that mumbo jumbo energy crap, right? Well, thankfully, I did it and it made a huge difference. And my energy level is through the roof.
You keep saying something like, I thought this was complete crap. But what made you say, even though this is probably complete crap, I'm going to try it?
My commitment, because I knew nothing else had tried before worked. I knew a book wasn't going to work. I've been reading books since I was 18. I mean, this was a yearning for me since I entered college.
Hard step for an
Nothing
engineer.
worked.
That's a hard step for an engineer.
Oh yeah. But look, I was done. I can't describe the disgust that I felt relative to how I was in this journey and not going anywhere.
And how
I
did,
was done.
how did you choose this precise path when in India there's so many possible things? For example, my parents had choose yoga, that is mental yoga, and they do 1 hour and a half of meditation every day. And I'm feeling like, well, maybe I should try something, but this is too much for me. There are so many types of meditation and stuff. I'm like always.
So I'll answer that question by telling you how I even encountered this, right? So I consult with big companies. That's what I do for a living. And I was at the Metro Transit Authority in New York City, because that's one of my clients. And I was walking out of it. I'd been there for like a month, got to know a bunch of folks, because I'm an extrovert, I love to talk, so you make a lot of friends, etc. So as I'm walking out of there, one of the guys had a book sitting on his desk, and I happened to glance at it, and it said something about Midnight to the Mystic. That was the title. I was like, ooh, cool title. I picked it up, he goes, take it. I'm like, dude, this is my last day, I'm going. He's like, take it. I said, nah, that's okay. I can't take it for you. I'm not going to see you again, right? Because I was on to the next client. Walked out the door, turned back, told him, I think I'm going to pick it up. Came back home. So we're snowbirds. So 2 days later, we got in a car, traveled down to Florida, right, for a snowbird journey. Down to Florida. And I was telling Diane about it. And Diane goes, oh, that Isha Yoga, I just found out that they have a program coming up in Tampa. Like 2 days later, I had signed up for it. my point is, when the yearning, you heard about this, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Just- When that yearning is there, the right thing will just turn up. I mean, I don't know how to express it. I've lived it. But you can't be not committed. You can't just be, oh yeah, for the 5 minutes in a day, I'm going to talk about, I want to find out my life purpose. It's got to be a yearning. And when that yearning is there, the right thing will just turn up.
Perhaps sometimes the yearning has to come when you're really like.
That's the way we are, yeah? We like the contrast. We like to know what we don't want before we are willing to accept what we want. That's the way we are. We live in a world of contrast, of opposites. Sometimes you've got to know the bad before you can accept the good. And unfortunately, most of type A people like myself, I have to feel the contrast really bad before I can get to the other side. So.
Could you go back to the ions?
So interestingly enough, when I practice some of the techniques, it has an impact on all of these. And by the way, when I was working, I started this 5 years ago, this yoga program, this Isha yoga program. And when I was doing it, I was at a stage where I needed a bottle of beer at the end of the day to, quote, relax, unquote. I had to have it, right? And that was another one of those factors, like, okay, this has got to stop. It all sort of came in on me at the same time. And by the end of the day, I'd be tired, exhausted. Well, since then, I haven't had a drop of alcohol in 4 years or whatever. I stopped drinking. Because again, if I want to be aware in every moment of my life, I don't want to take something that will make me unaware. So that commitment came through, and at the same time, this technique came through, and so I don't drink anymore, and my energy is, I don't even know how to describe it, it is through the roof. I cannot remember at any time in my life that I have the kind of energy that I have today. I can't remember it. So all of these things kind of just fell into place. When that yearning, when that commitment sort of erupted, right? When it sprouted. So, and I'll come back to this in a little bit, but I want to go through, what time is it? Till what time does this go on? Till 8:30, I think, right? 2 hours. Okay, so we have another hour. So I'm going to try to go through it quicker. So thoughts, let's take a look at thoughts, right? So that was the next item. Food, body, thoughts. So again, I'm going to make a statement about the body one more time before we go. So is it fair to make a statement that while your body is yours, you are not your body? And the example I like to give is, if you lose a limb for some reason, let's say I lost my arms, somebody introduces me, I'm not going to say, hi, I'm 75% Parag. Right? If you lose your legs, you don't say, I'm 50% Parag, right? You still say, I am Parag. I am who I am. So your body belongs to you, but you are not your body. Yeah? Fair? Somebody disagree? So now let's get to thoughts. So you've read this, be aware of your thoughts, no idle chit-chat, discipline, focus on what you want, don't argue for what you don't. Heard this a lot of times, I'm sure you have, but a simple example, right? I walked into a client once and I told them how I was delayed in traffic by an extra 30 minutes. And the people around you is classic. Oh, that's nothing. I was doing 45 minutes one day in traffic. Oh no, I was 1 hour. Well, is that what you want? No, then why are you talking about it? Why are you thinking about it? So focus on what you want rather than arguing for what you don't want. And know this, right? That statement about getting uncomfortable, everything that we do, everything that we accept as logical within our intellect is based upon the past. Let's just examine that statement, right? Everything that you, quote, know is based upon our experience that is based upon the past. What that means is, as we are sitting here, sifting, recognizing, liking, disliking, we are literally living in the past. That's how we are looking at the present, from the lens of the past. And the more you continue to do that, the more you are certain not to be growing. Because growth comes from the unknown. It doesn't come from the known. So what I like to do is to get myself in uncomfortable situations. So for example, I was working for SAP. I left and started working for IBM. I could have retired from there, but I knew that that would not be the comfortable thing to do. And that was 4.5 years ago. And just a month ago, I left IBM and went to a different company. I'm not suggesting you keep flipping through jobs. The point is, I like to expose myself to something unknown. Do something different, right? Because being and staying uncomfortable is what helps me with my awareness. Why do you think the ascetic monks out there are living in harsh conditions? It takes no consciousness when you're hungry to pick a piece of food and eat it. It takes a tremendous level of awareness when you're hungry to not eat or to bring that piece of food, stop, say a prayer, and then eat. So that's where the awareness comes in every moment by moment. So hence, get uncomfortable. Because if you're completely comfortable in everything that you do, you're not growing. Now, that might not be a life purpose for you, might not be a pushing element for you. But look, if that were true, you wouldn't be in this 1%. You are already in a 1% of the population where this is somewhere in the back of your head. This is nagging you, right? We are the only creature on the planet that once our stomach is full, once our needs are met, a sense of unfulfillment yearns, comes out. It is when we have everything that we need that we feel a loss. We feel a yearning. It's not that next car, it's not that girlfriend, it's not that husband, it's not that wife, it's not the $1 million. What is it? What is it? So park that question, we'll come to it in a moment. But that is what separates us from the animals. So get uncomfortable. So accept unlimited responsibility was a concept that was an interesting one for me when I first heard it. So when I started making these decisions, because again, my purpose was about awareness, hence my thoughts needed to be aligned with awareness. And I wanted compassion, I wanted those different attributes that I wrote up there. So I started taking responsibility for all my experiences that I encountered. And I'm going to come to the experience thing in a moment, but I want to explain that sentence. So when I encountered a situation that was contrary to what I felt my purpose was, where I wanted to be aligned, I didn't look outside for the solution. I fully accepted the responsibility for that event inside. Very similar to what you were saying. You didn't wait and blame the people who were saying things to you. Instead, you introspected. You accepted responsibility.
First blamed and then said, oh, that doesn't work, and decided, oh, if I take responsibility, that feels much more aligned to my higher power than saying, I can't because you did that,
Much more aligned to your purpose?
Yeah, yes, same thing, yeah.
She gave an incredible 15-minute start to her talk that I thought was the most succinct, clearly articulated description of life purpose and living it and whatnot. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
So that's what I mean by saying accept unlimited responsibility. Don't shove it on somebody else. Like when someone even to this day reacts a certain way to me, now there are knee jerks that occur, right? You get that knee jerk, etc. But I don't like to think about the things that are not in alignment with my purpose. If I want to be aware at all times, I'm not going to sit and think, oh, that jackass did this to me, I'm going to do this to him. And then, rewind, play back again. Rewind, play back again and again and again. If it's not in alignment with your purpose, stop. Stop. So, one of the problems that I had was the thought process, right? I was constantly thinking, the intellectualization of everything. So I had to practice meditation for myself to stop the thinking process. One of the ones that I admire, his name is Sadhguru. He's got all kinds of videos on YouTube. You can go up and look at it.
How do you spell his name?
SADH Guru, Sadhguru. He's the one who created the Isha Yoga program. If you even type Isha Yoga in YouTube, you'll find lots of videos by him. ISHA, Isha Yoga. He made a very interesting comment. I thought it was pretty cool. He said, when the mind stills, intelligence explodes. So cool. So cool. And look, it's a paradox, right? It's a classic paradox, but that's what life is all about. It's all about these paradoxes. And I'll be sharing some more of those later on. But I learned a meditative technique called shunya, which means nothingness. And to this day, since I learned it, I'll close my eyes, hold a posture, and I have literally done this because I travel a lot. In airports, literally Grand Central Station, sandwiched between Neil and Grace, screaming in the car. I'm gone.
Oh, wow.
It's like a light. I'm gone. And when I come back out of it, I have to be careful because I'm fully aware. I can hear them talking, etc. But the thoughts that were like a river in my mind, it's like I'm standing on the river bank and watching it flow by. And it's awesome. It's so cool. But again, this was a technique that had to be taught to me, and there's a very specific yogic process around it. You need to learn it from.
And you never meditated or?
Oh, I tried for years.
Oh, you tried?
Oh yeah. But just like Surya Namaskar, I did it for years, but not like this.
Do you feel like though that was training ground?
Again, I was ready, and everything just turned up.
Yeah.
I was so ready. I was like, I'm done. No more, no mas. Gotta do, Okay. So same comment again. You are not your thoughts. Yeah. The thoughts emanate from you, flow through you, whatever you want. But you, the essence of who you are not your thoughts. You see a theme going on here? You are not your body. You are not your thoughts. You are not your
What
food.
the heck are you?
Isn't that the ultimate question? And who are you? It's the ultimate rhetorical question. It's not in the answering of the question that transformation occurs. It's in the asking of the question. So emotions. Oh boy. So you got to examine your trigger points, right? This is a tough one for me. Very difficult. I mean, my sister, great example. Boy, she hits my trigger points better than anyone else. My kids, they hit my trigger points amazingly well. And what I've come to realize is that I need to be grateful for the events that push my trigger points. And I look at anything that elicits now a strong reaction in me. Positive or negative doesn't matter. Forget the label on the emotion. Is it a strong emotion that you feel relative to a person or an event? Then what I do is I go back home when I'm in my quiet place, and I will actually write it down or think about it. Why did that happen? What is it that caused that emotional trigger? And one of the things that I've done is this right here. So, what was the most recent person? Who was the most recent person that triggered a deep reaction? Write down the reasons why you were triggered by it, why it bothered you using that name. Now replace that name with yours. Right? So read the same sentence as if you were the person doing that action that bothered you the most. And what I've come to realize is that the things that I find, and I'll just talk about me, right? You guys can share your experience. So what I find is the things that I find the most irritating in maybe my sister, I'll just pick her again, is because I portray them myself. And it was a very difficult thing for me to comprehend. But is that Bible saying, Father, why can I see the speck in my brother's eye but not the log in my own? It's a beautiful saying. That is a part of introspection that we totally miss. And I realized that every time something irritates me, he is so selfish. I stop and I say, okay, am I selfish? What am I doing? And by the way, I go to my family. And believe me, if Neil was standing here, he'd be like, oh yeah, you're selfish, Daddy. Part of it, right? So I use them as a great sounding board. And there is no hesitation for them to put a mirror in front of me. I don't like what I see a lot of times. But tell you what, this is what I do relative to my emotions. Any big emotional trigger point, right? I use to try to find out what is it inside me that I'm showcasing. Then you start resolving those issues yourself. And sometimes you need external help, like Terry helps me to resolve emotional trigger points of my own. And because I've also realized that I needed help. I couldn't do this journey by myself. But this systematic process allowed me to focus on each one of these aspects to say, okay, what am I eating? What are my thoughts every day? What are my emotional trigger points? Collect them, analyze them, know that this is all you. It has nothing to do with anybody else. That was one of the big transformational things that I recognized. This whole accept unlimited responsibility. What I have found, I'll share my experience. Like my mother-in-law married somebody, right? Because Diane's parents were divorced, married someone else. My perception of him was he was an absolute jackass. Right? And I couldn't stand him. And instead of talking about, what a jackass is, instead of doing that, we initially started doing that, Diane and I. Oh, he's this, he's that. Okay, stop. First of all, is this what we want to enhance? This is what you want to encounter? No, then why are we talking about it? Secondly, accepting responsibility. He's in our lives because there's a certain element in myself that is being reflected out there. And he's simply being a mirror reflecting it back to me. So when we reconcile ourselves using each other, bouncing back and forth, that aspect of himself just disappeared. I don't know how to describe it other than that experience simply disappears completely. Yes.
Is it that you see it in yourself and then you forgive him for it? Or is it that you see it in yourself and you can't throw the stone? Or is it that it really just or some part of your brain said, I don't see it. A part of you knows he is that.
Did you change? Did he change?
Right.
Yeah. So
Chicken or the egg?
yeah. Look, all I'll tell you is this, right? Each one of us plays 1,000 different roles. Each one of us does. We have many different aspects to ourselves. There are some people that bring out, certain aspect of you. Other people don't. Some people know you as loving. Some people know you as hateful. There are so many aspects of yourself bundled up into this body that you call you, right? So what happens is that as you transform yourself, what is being reflected at you? This is why I said experiences, right? Use that as a mirror, as a literal mirror. If you see something out there as being that you are experiencing that you don't like, look at inside. Why is it that it's being out there? Did you have something? I heard somebody here saying something.
Like the shadow process?
The shadow process? I don't know what that means. Sorry.
That's a process that says look at the things you don't like of somebody, you blame, you judge, and then you pass from the third person. Usually our brain refers to it as the third person. He is like this, he is that, he is. And then you transform the he into
I.
you first, you are like this. So it makes it a little closer because your brain it's something that's a shadow inside us that we don't want to see inside us. So we put it very far away, saying he.
Good,
Then
I
you
like
say
that.
you are like this instead of he, and so it's a bit closer. And then I. Then so you accept that it's really close to you. That's this shadow you don't want to have. And then you accept yourself, so then you accept the other one also. The shadow process. Looks like this. So.
Well, I like it. It's a good way. All I can tell you is I have learned not to try to intellectualize everything. I can't explain it, but I have experienced it. I have experienced the metamorphosis in myself that causes my experience to change. When I first went to IBM, there was a person who was constantly challenging me in meetings. I'd come up with some ideas. I'm on the phone all the time. I got people from all over the world. We're on conference calls, talking. I'd express an idea, and he would challenge me. And it got to the point that one weekend, on a Friday, we got off the conference call, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to call him. This is what I would do normally. I'm going to call him directly, confront him, and say, what the heck? Do you have some issue with me? What's going on? Why are you challenging me? And I was going through this exercise myself. It was a huge emotional trigger. Duh, that's what it was. It was a big emotional trigger for me. So I recognized that weekend, as I analyzed that, thought about it, that when I went to IBM, not that SAP is small, but IBM is one of the biggest companies on the planet, and I started to question my own ability to succeed in an environment like that. So as I started to question that, I recognized that he was merely reflecting the self-doubt that I had. So I was like, okay, look, I know I'm good at what I do. So I went back to that feeling that I had about self-worth and am I worthy of even getting that kind of money? Because it was also tied to money. Because in my career, I have gone through huge jumps in salaries. Not because my ability changed, not because I could now work 80 hours in 40. I'm still working the same number of hours, but my income has drastically gone up. Why? Because I changed my mindset about what I was worth. And when I did that, I found that reflected in what I was receiving. That was I could talk for an hour just on that topic, right? But the point is, when I recognized that and realized it, that next day, Monday, we had a conference call, and by then I had resolved, recognized, and I had no emotional attachment, because on Friday, if I had heard his voice again, I would be like, let me see if I can punch him in the nose, right? I had resolved that emotional inside me, I had etc., and I got on the phone with him on Monday morning, and the first comment he made was, hey Parag, I've been meaning to tell you, is there any way I can come and join your team?
Whoa.
Love your style, and it blew me away. It just blew me away. Now, what was it? Did he change it? You know what? I don't know. I can't intellectualize. All I know is that I did this instead of doing that.
That's phenomenal.
I can give you example after example that has happened to me. I can't intellectualize it. All I can tell you is this has been my experience. So I refuse now to look out. Somebody cuts me out. I mean, look, do I have human knee-jerk reactions? You jackass, you did this, you did that. Of course I did. Of course I did. But I try not to dwell on it. Try not to again and again, because it is contrary to my purpose. So let's talk about actions. So what kind of action should I engage in, right? And as I mentioned to you, I'm a consultant. So for IBM and for the company I work for, Cognizant, I help them relative to their consulting practice, win big deals, etc. So one of the things I tell the consultants is that what kind of mentality are you bringing to the table, right? Are you bringing to the table a mentality that says a $400 consultant walked in the door? How would that person behave? How would he or she act? What would their demeanor be? Act like that. What do you want to be? Act like that. You know, people say dress for the job that you want, not for the job that you have, right? Similarly, act like you are that $400 consultant. In a situation, how would he or she react?
Have you ever done that though, and then felt, 'cause I know I have, I've done that whole fake it till you make it, and I felt like a fraud. I felt like they're gonna see through this. So I understand what you're saying, but there's that feels like I'm out of integrity to some degree.
That's a good point. So if you look at this statement, right, spontaneous rightful action springs from an egoless mind.
Right, so you weren't in ego. You were in your value.
You cannot be an ego, right?
Yeah,
The ego springs from a desire
Right.
that is contrary to your purpose.
Right, so when I'm faking it, that's my ego faking it. But when I'm showing up as my true value, then that's what's seen, or that's what I feel. That's it.
It is only relative to my purpose that I change those actions.
Right.
I didn't change the action because I want to make $400 an hour. Hence, I will act like that. It is the mindset relative to how you will act in alignment with your purpose. So if your purpose is, for example, for me, my mindset always has been, I don't want to follow a Christ, I want to be a Christ. Yeah? I mean, it's a big difference. How do you live a life like that? I don't want to follow, I want to be. So,
well, like, for instance, I want to be open and vulnerable and
then
real.
act like it.
But that to me, and so here's I don't feel like that's worth.
So can you
$250.
park that sentence? I'll come back to it. Right? One of the last slides, one of the
Yeah.
last things.
So that's my BS. Is,
got it?
well, if I'm going to show up
And maybe
be
yours
real,
too, right? You said the whole BS thing, right? Yeah.
Why was your purpose? In your purpose there was this money part also. Or I want to earn this amount.
The reason I said that is because I say that a lot to newcomers who come into, because the big companies like IBM, they charge around SAP consulting, it's big dog consulting, right? And so, I don't know how else to put it, right? We go after the big multi-million-dollar accounts. And when you do that, I'm training and I'm teaching others and how to act. And this is the example that I give, so it just comes from my
It
experience.
resonates with them.
Right. Because I have to tell them, you guys have to act a certain way. You can't just walk in and act like, because you have to act a certain way. And how do you get there, right? I don't know if you guys know this or not, but have you heard about the 10,000 hour syndrome?
Yeah.
Yeah? Whose book is that? Malcolm Gladwell.
Yes.
Brilliant book. He's an outstanding author, right? He's written all kinds of books, but the book that he addresses this is a book called Outliers, where he interviewed people who are far outlying in their, like the Beatles. Why the hell did the Beatles succeed? And he found out that they had spent almost a year or 2 years in Europe doing nightly gigs where they would ex-tempo do music again and again and again every night for 7-8 hours a night. So by the time they came to America, the ex-tempo music thing was like packed because they had gone through, and he found out that it takes about 10,000 hours before you step through what I would refer to as the 4 layers of learning, right? The first layer is unconscious incompetence. You don't even know you're incompetent. You have no idea that when you're a child, I don't know about driving, I don't care about driving. Then comes conscious incompetence, where you want to learn driving. Then comes conscious competence, where now you're driving, but don't talk to me, I'm driving. Then comes unconscious competence. Yeah, putting on lipstick, talking on the radio, flipping somebody off, and you're driving. Yeah? So those are the 4 layers of learning, right? So how do you get to the unconscious competence? 10,000 hours. Practice again and again and again and again. So, how would your purpose people act, right? And one of the things that I like to also say here is, down over here, what is the definition of insanity? I'm sure you guys have heard, but I'll give it to you in a story. I'll give it to you in a story, right? My dad had a knee operation done because his knee was sticking. He's passed, but when he was alive, and he would walk like this before the operation. And after the operation, the doctor said, "You got to stop walking. You start walking normal." Well, he continued to do that. So every time, I would yell at him, "Dad, bend your knee. Dad, bend your knee. Dad." And then he'd go, "Oh, yeah." He'd start doing it for like 7 steps, then he's back to this again. So finally one day, after I'd, get mad, emotional, triggered many times, Neil was like, "Daddy, because I told him, I tell him how I talk to my clients, how I consult, etc. And he's like, "Daddy, you're telling him again and again the same thing. He is not going to change." And he's like, "You tell me that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome? Right? You're doing the same thing." And it just hit me. You need sometimes somebody else to tell you, right? Because you are doing that definition of insanity and you don't even realize it. So, I already mentioned this, right? Every interaction, every encounter is a reflection of who you are. No matter how small, how big, everything you do is a reflection of who you are. You don't like something, change that aspect of who you are. Examine it, change it, and watch the experience change. It is absolutely amazing. I gave that example in another talk, right? What I like to tell myself is that if I'm shaving in front of the mirror, I don't take the blade and scrape the mirror. You've got to do it here, not on the mirror. Look at your experience as a mirror. And this is tough. This is hard. Because I have an interaction with Diane where she'll say something, and we've been married 24 years, right? So we know each other really well. And, look, I've got lots of flaws, and she painfully exposes them to me all the time. So how then do you look at that and not say, well, instead, I thank every interaction like that because it is helping me become more aware, because that's my purpose. If my purpose is to become aware, the last thing I wanted was somebody unconscious who's simply accepting me for who I am. So there is no growth in that, none. And I want to grow. So I have to remind myself when I feel the anger come, when I feel the who the heck are you to tell me, and look how good I am. I have to tell myself that this is what I wanted. I have to remind myself, to your point, this is what I chose. This is the path that I have chosen. So where do I want to be relative to that path? Wallow in all the miserable shit that's happening to me? Or use it to springboard somewhere else? So that's what I constantly remind myself. And I use my experience. So when a day goes by where I haven't encountered those things and I've seen that what I want myself to portray reflected back at me is when I know that I'm there. So I literally welcome every event that makes me uncomfortable. Maybe not while it happens, right? Maybe not for a week until after it has happened. But I do welcome it. I have to. I have no choice. Because I'm the faith. I am committed. And look, here's something else, and I've got some resources up there that you guys can look at, right? So all of this is great, but one of the things that I've found is that we are creatures of habit. And for us to embark upon a different journey, you have to break habitual patterns. So how do you do that? Well, first of all, you have to understand the science of habit. How do habits get created in us? Whether it's a habitual pattern of thinking, where your cue might be somebody was mean to you, right? Then your repeated action, your routine could be you massage it in your brain thinking, wow, you know, next time he says this, I'm going to say this to him, and yeah, I'm going to win. He's going to win. Right? Again and again and again and again. And the reward is, yeah, I won. Even if it was hypothetical, I won.
Right.
Which one of us hasn't experienced that? Of course, we all have. We're human. We go through that. But that's a habit. You have got to break the habit. There are techniques that are really cool in breaking them, right? Check out this guy. He's got lots of good material out there, free of charge. Tiny Habits, they got a program, weekly program. Again, free of charge. I'm the king of free because I'm a cheap ass. So, check it out, it's pretty cool. It'll actually help you with breaking your habits and creating new ones. Because it's all about creating new habits. Otherwise, this becomes I spend cool 2 hours listening to someone talk, and I go home and it's all in that.
Here comes the heckler.
Anybody still writing this down? Can I go to the next one?
One more.
No problem.
I recently found a free program, a month long, and it started with signing a commitment to ourselves for a 40-day fast of criticism, judgment, anything anti-self-love. And I was so excited to sign this, and somehow I thought because of the way she talked about it, it was just going to happen, and that it wasn't going to be work. And I signed the thing, and I'm like, 40 days fast, I can do that? I don't have to criticize anybody for 40 days.
Wow.
That night. I didn't even last
40 minutes later.
I was so embarrassed. And then I was mad at myself. I'm like, oh, and there I am. Now I'm doubling. First I criticized my husband, and I did it in kind of a veiled way, but it was definitely there. And then I went, and I was mad at me. Oh wait, that counts too. And the next day, when I watched the video for the day, I was like, wow, I totally failed. And I went, oh no, there I'm doing it again. And then a week went by, and I realized, oh, I'm sticking to my habit now. It took a couple of falls, and I don't know that 40 days will mean 40 years. But it's pretty cool that it was the tiny habit idea, the daily. Today I reaffirm that I'm not going to criticize or judge. And now I know that I might fall off the wagon, but I'll get back on with more grace. I won't be as angry at myself.
Cool. It's interesting, the 40 days in yoga. When you learn this program, the Isha program, they teach you a technique and they tell you to practice it for 40 days.
Oh.
And they say there's a reason behind that, because for it to get ingrained as a habit,
Yeah.
right, you need to practice it that long. Then it starts, has a chance of becoming a habit. And when I started going through this journey, right down this journey, one of the things that hit me was, because I really started examining yoga a lot. Again, not the yoga that they're teaching, not that stuff. This Isha yoga that I'm talking about. And so as I did that research and I listened to Sadhguru talk, etc., one of the comments he made was that one of the first books written on yoga is written by a guy called Patanjali like 2,000 years ago. And the book starts with a statement that says, Atha Anusanam Yoga. It's Sanskrit. which means, and now, yoga. So somebody asked me, what does it mean? Why, how do you start a book like that? He's like, well, look, and he's very articulate. If you watch his YouTube stuff, you'll see what I'm talking about, right? He goes, look, us yogis, we're very selfish. We're very focused. So when the first yogi came, and during that time, they recognized that this pattern that we have, this yearning that I was referring to before, right? We wish to expand our sense of self. So this yearning expresses itself physically in, ooh, I've got to get that car, isn't that cool? And then once you get that car, yes, you feel great. And then a few days later, I got to get that job, or that girl, that guy. That yearning is constant. You're constantly seeking to expand that self of who you define yourself to be and bring more within that, more and more. And the yearning never goes away. The more you achieve, the more you get, the more the yearning expands. You see countless examples of some of the most successful, richest people on the planet having that, drugs and whatever, right? Because that fulfillment doesn't occur. Hence, what you were saying was that the yogis realized that going, similar to the experience analogy, going outside for that resolution of the yearning isn't the answer. You have to go inside for the resolution of the yearning. So, if you have finally reached the stage where I'm done, I am not going to chase after that next thing that is outside of me. Atha Anusanam Yoga. Now, yoga. That's the whole purpose of yoga. So that to me, I was like, oh, give me some more. That's what I want. That's what I want. Right? That was a yearning that I had. And then I tried to find out what exactly is that. And who did I tell? Somebody I was talking to, I forget now. But awareness, right, they say is a seed. Enlightenment, what do you want to call it? Divinity, name it, is a seed that exists in every human being. Only in the human being. That is that yearning, that, what am I missing? I just got everything I needed, and I want more. That seed is latent, and that is that voice inside you that is talking when that happens. And just like if you were to ask the question, right, do you know how to grow a plant? The ego will say, of course I know how to grow a plant. But the truth is, we don't. What we do know is to set the conditions right. Put it in fertile soil, sunlight, water, and the plant. Politely. And the plant. Oh my God, that's cute.
Did he say sorry?
Yes.
That is cute.
Sorry.
And the plant grows by itself. So nature has the ability, nature knows how to grow the plant. What you have to do is set the conditions right. So that's the purpose of yoga. The purpose of yoga is to set the conditions right in your body so the seed of divinity can take blossom. It flowers inside you. But you have to set the conditions right. That is in our power. That we have the power to do. So that is he talks about the yoga that is taught in America, and he laughs and he says it's kind of like you're a pilot and you go to a village and they're taking a plane that has had its wings cut off and showing you, look how I'm pushing it around the streets here. Like, you can fly with it. Look what you can do with it. So the ultimate purpose of yoga, the way you breathe, the way you do the different asanas, is not to build the body and not to feel. It is to get that seed to sprout inside of you of awareness. So I warned you guys, this is going to be spiritual, etc., right? We've already gone through this, so I'll go on to the next one. So you guys have seen this statement by Deepak Chopra?
Yeah.
You heard about this? So cool. Ultimately, you come to the stage where you do nothing and accomplish everything. And the first time I read that, I was like, cool, I can sit on my ass and do nothing and get everything, baby. I like that. That's the kind of, spirituality I like. But what this next thing here, right, the second statement here, I mentioned this, I think Julie or one of you guys were here. another talk. I was in Dallas where I experienced this for the first time. There was a guy who was truly evolved, just an amazing human being. It was another conference I was at. It was a Rethinking Everything conference in Dallas, which is what sparked, if you know, Anne to create this, because she came from Dallas. And so this guy is sitting there, and I had a one-on-one session with him. And when I sat down with him, looked into his eyes, can't describe it, but I gotta tell you, he looked into my eyes and he said, "So Parag, what is it that you want?" And I was like blissed in that moment. And that's what I said. There's nothing, there's nowhere to be. Everything is perfect just the way it is. And he just looked at me and smiled. I smiled. Of course, later on I said, "You bloody jackass, you could have asked him for 7 things," right? But in that moment, that is what I felt. That is what I experienced. So I realized that when your thoughts are grounded in that concept, your body is free of stress, you get emotionally detached from the outcome, then you begin to act for the sake of action. And you find yourself living in the moment. And suddenly there is no question about finding your purpose because you are living it. It's a great paradox where you might want to intellectualize what my statement is, what I'm doing. But when you begin to live like this, you experience the purpose of life. When you are experiencing the purpose of life, you don't find the need to intellectualize, why do I have to live? Why? What is my purpose? Somebody asked me the question, what is the purpose of life? Right? Not just my life. Why is life even here? And again, that comes from the intellect. When you experience that, you don't have to ask that question. When some of you are mothers, maybe all of you, well, not you, but when you have your child in your arms, and you get that first feeling when you're holding the baby, you don't question, why am I here? What is my purpose? You are living in the moment, in the present. It's a gift, right? So it's present. You heard Chopra say this. You're living in the moment. There's no past, there's no future projection. You're just in that moment. So how do you sustain that living in the moment, right? All the time? And that's why we have to go through this intellectual exercise, so that you can live in the moment and not have the intellectual exercise. It's a great paradox.
He said something similar about if you are fully present in the moment, you'll have time to accomplish everything, or something similar.
Yeah,
Same idea, yeah.
The first line up there,
But
right?
it takes being present, yeah.
Where you do nothing and accomplish everything. He also says, don't fight against the present moment. When you fight against the present moment, you fight against the entire universe.
So in terms of this purpose, so you came up with you wanting to be aware. I mean, that's a really good one because it covers everything else you want to be. Like, how did you get to that? That's a really good one.
Look, I just saw these people live their lives. I've seen Sadhgurus sit physically and talk. 100 people over there asking all kinds of questions. And he says, look into my eyes. Don't I look blissed? I'm blissed all the time. But I don't touch any drugs. Vivekananda, who was one of the yogis, early yogis who came here to America, said a long time ago, you boys chasing after girls when you don't realize that every pore in your body is orgasmic. There are things that we are not even aware of that sprout from within here. So when I recognized that, I was like so freaking Atha Anusanam Yoga, I was like, I'm done. Then it's like, what am I chasing? What am I trying to be? Which is why in that talk, who gave that talk? I don't know. Somebody gave a talk on the first day that says,
Christine,
what do you want to be?
Yeah,
What was my answer?
Desire map.
My desire map was enlightenment. I want to be enlightened. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to read about it. I want to be enlightenment. So, again, when the yearning comes that hard, you hit upon your purpose. It's that yearning. Do you have it? If you have it, it just opens doors. I don't know what else to say. Any comments?